Hey guys, so today we are going to talk about integration and working with a third party. And especially if you have a partner company of some sort where you basically have two independent groups who need to collaborate in order to provide a more holistic whole, yada 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 yada. Let's get into it. So, to give you a bit of background story as to why I'm equipped to even talk about this, I want you to know that right now at my current company, we are working in very close relationship with one of Sweden's biggest banks, and that introduces a lot of opportunities. Of course, it's one of the biggest features for the company to be part of the banking world and provide the services that we provide to such a massive corporation. But it also provides a bit of challenge because it means that we basically have to collaborate with a vastly different type of entity. And if you have ever worked in a really, really large company, or if you've never, if you work in a small company, if you've been in both places, you know that some things are true for the large company and some things are true for the smaller company. One of the biggest challenges that you will face when you're a very small company working with such a large organization, and especially when it's such a fairly conservative organization such as a bank, you will figure out very quickly that everything takes literally a million years to do. If they say the word soon has a very, very different meaning in really, really large companies, and especially in more conservative organizations with a lot of administrators and like overhead and all of that good stuff. Because soon means, like, if I say soon, I usually, like, if I'm telling you, like, if you're my boss and I say, oh, it's gonna be done pretty soon, that means roughly today or at least this week. Soon, in the context of a really large company such as a bank, is basically whenever there is a sense of urgency in the organization. That can be anything from a week to several months, and usually, because and this is not always the case. But you will find that a lot of people have I don't know why this is, but there are some, and this is especially true I've found in the UK, and I would, maybe Sweden is the exception to the rule, because the hierarchies in Sweden are very flat. In other words, you don't feel nervous when you talk to the head of your corporation for the most part. He or she is usually just another person working at the company. It's not, there's very little in terms of hierarchy, which is actually kind of funny because it's the exact opposite in many other parts of the world where like a large company perceives themselves, or like people part of a large company perceives themselves as being more valuable, and therefore they can get away with stuff that you wouldn't have done if the roles were reversed. So they look at things such as the small companies depending on the big company, and therefore, hey shit, they have to cater to our every whim. Unfortunately, this is very much the case for certain corporations as well. I'm not saying that it's always the case, but it does happen. And so that puts you as the startup, or as the basically the other party in a little bit of an awkward position, because as you can imagine, if you have this interdependency between your organization and another organization that have all this overhead and they're very slow and so forth, that puts you in a bit of an awkward situation. Because usually when it comes to a startup, for example, like the one that I'm part of, we are accustomed to working very quickly. Like, in order for the company to survive, you have to release very, very quickly and produce things in a rapid manner. And just, you can imagine that's a big problem if you're depending on code or something that somebody else needs to provide you with, and their definition of what fast is literally ages in comparison to what you are defining something as. And usually the relationship goes something like, all right, they ask us to do something now, we do it the same day, we ask them to do something now, and they will get back to us in a few weeks when they've had time to talk about it in a meeting. Usually that's how it works, at least from my perspective. That's usually the difference between really large companies and very small companies. Everything takes like 100 times longer in a large corporation for the most part. So, what can you do to mitigate this situation? It's one of my absolute favorite things to talk about, and it's something that has been on discussion a few times at my job. And basically, a lot of my colleagues have expressed like frustrations with this relationship that we have, where we can't, like, it's very difficult to cooperate. And I think that, honestly, I think that is to be expected. Honestly, it's something that I said a long time ago at my previous job at Ticketmaster, where basically we got the question from the big wigs at like the guys living in America and like in London and so forth, the guys who basically run the entire show, guys who get paid like 50 times what I get. And they had basically the question was basically sent out to all it was basically a form where we could express and this was my favorite question. They asked, do you feel like the management department or like basically the bosses of this company care about you? And I basically answered no, I don't think so. And I followed up the question to my colleagues. Why would I expect them to? I can think about it. I'm a single person in a company which contains thousands of people. They don't even know my name. I don't know their names, to be like, let's be honest. Like, it's not just about them, it's about me as well. I don't know their names. If they came into my office and just sat down at the coffee table, I would have no idea who they were. I would probably say hi, but anyway. And that's because the people that you care about are the people that you see every day. Those are the people you invest in. So if you have two organizations such as your own company and some other company outside, it's not unnatural for that company to only care about their own interest and your company to care about your interest, because you have a cooperation, but it's not the same thing as being part of the same team. It's a little bit different. It shouldn't be that way, but that's how it works. And so what I suggest, we had this discussion about, I was in the meeting where we were talking about how closely should we work as two organizations coming together to try to provide some value to our users. And I said, I think that what we should be doing is to set up things in such a way where we have the loosest possible coupling. So that the communication between us, like the verbal communication, should be very good. We have like Slack channels and we talk to each other and so forth to coordinate things. But the interfaces, like the systems, when they are talking to each other, they should do that on the bare minimum, like the smallest possible APIs. So because the thing is that, in all honesty, if our organization, the startup, gets too if we depend too much on the large organization, that's going to kill us, because we need to be able to move fast in order to ship value and actually provide the type of value that that's why they got in bed with us to begin with, right? And if we get slowed down by their work process, that's going to kill us. It's not going to kill them because they are a really large company, which with a lot of money and so forth, but it kills the startup. So what I suggest to you, if you're ever in the situation where you need to integrate two organizations, you need to basically have systems talking to each other, try to account for that. Remember that you are two independent entities. Even if you promise yourself that, you're going to have this awesome cooperation and everything's going to be awesome, we're going to just talk all the time. Trust me, it's even true in an office. If your development team is not on the same, literally like a few meters away from the design team or something like that, it will show. Even a difference in like the same floor but just a hallway away is enough distance to create a bit of separation. And imagine how much more that's going to happen if you don't even sit in the same building. You may not even be in the same country. So actually, I will argue that cooperation is great at the verbal, like communication level, but at the system level, it should be bare minimum. I think we have 3 or 4 endpoints in total that we use to communicate between the two different systems. And that's why we want to keep things as loosely coupled as humanly possible, because, as I said, if we ever get too far into depending on their system, and it starts affecting our ability to release features, it's going to kill the company. So that's my tip to you. If you're doing integration and if you're doing things of that nature, you should be aware of things such as this. I hope that you can have a great cooperation with whatever company you're integrating to, but in my experience, it is very valuable to always try to think of things in terms of, all right, how can we keep ourselves as loosely coupled as possible from the other organization? How can we work as independently as humanly possible and only communicate about the very bare bone things we need in order to create that value that we are striving for as a joint force? Hopefully this was useful to you. Have a great day.